Hello and welcome to ISE Show TV. This is Paul Milligan at ISE 2019. Thank you for joining us for the latest in our panel discussions. This one today is entitled Industry Consolidation. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or just a natural move for a maturing sector? So today I'm joined nearest to me by Nigel Miller from Cordless Consultants. Next to him is Elena Novikova from Polymedia. Next to her is Jenny Hicks from Midwich. And at the end, last but not least, is Brad Grimes from Avixa. So, do we think this is just, we call it Pro-AV, is just the flurry of mergers and acquisitions we've seen probably in the last 2 years, is this just a natural move? Is this just Pro-AV becoming more professional? Nigel, you're my victim first.
No, that's fine. I think it's partly a symptom of a maturing market. As things grow and become more professional, then obviously bigger players move in, and we have seen a great deal of consolidation from what were quite a lot of lifestyle businesses, I think, set up to not necessarily grow and exit, but more to give their original founders a suitable income and a reasonably comfortable way of life. I think as things professionalise over the years, then bigger players come in and a different approach is taken. So I think that is a driver behind it, but I think the other driver is the technology itself, and that is that AV used to stand completely isolated as part of a facilities management process. It was screens, it was fairly simple, and was just another function within a building, whereas IT was always this big Goliath that was pumping information around the building. And of course the technology has changed, and as more AV becomes IT-like, and increasingly so with IP transport systems, then it's going to become, by definition, much more under one umbrella. Sure. So I think it's the technology, but it's also the growth and maturing of the market.
Sure. Elena, have you seen a lot of activity in Russia with companies buying each other? And do you think that's a natural stage for the industry to be at?
No, I don't see a lot of activities in Russia of companies buying each other, but I see activity in Russia that companies would like to be global. And I think this is a very interesting thing. And from the point of view of the integrator and Russian company, we would like to be global. And of course, we need an additional money for this, additional funds, or they need partners to be global. For instance, we are in GPA Association, that give us a possibility to be global. And I see many companies are connected together in the association, and this is driven by customer needs. Because one customer needs to have the same level of the service as he can give in the United States and in other countries. And so, for instance, some customers come to Russia and we can provide in this level of the service. And the other thing, I think that the AV industry is very growing, is fast growing, and we are creative, and they need also some additional funds and resources to realize our ideas. And this is the result of the merging and acquisition. This is my opinion.
No, absolutely. Jenny, I'll come to you last because Midwich is a really interesting and almost sort of central to all this. But Brad, from an Avixa point of view, we've seen a lot of M&A, haven't we, in the last couple of years. Do you think, as Nigel said, it's as we become more IT-like, we are becoming more like that industry in terms of its big venture capitalist companies buying owner-created companies?
I don't know that it's anything about becoming more IT-like or more like any other industry. It is about change. Consolidation, read the word change in there. I mean, we produce trade shows around the world, and we are sensitive to large mergers and acquisitions. When 2 or 3 companies get together, those are 2 booths at a trade show that aren't there yet, but they're replaced by new companies. And so what's lost sometimes in the focus on the large mergers and acquisitions are the number of new companies coming into the business and doing things with audiovisual technology that haven't been done before. So if mergers and acquisitions meant that a show like ISE, where we are, had fewer companies taking part, then it's, to your question, is it good or is it bad or is it natural? It would be bad, but that's not the case. I mean, the trade show continues to get better. They're different companies. Obviously, if you're involved in a merger or an acquisition, depending on who you are, you know, There are pains sometimes involved with it, but it usually means opportunity. And our research shows that this industry is only still growing. It's still a robust industry, and so whether there are mergers and acquisitions or new companies coming in or old companies going out, there's still a big pie for all these companies to go after, and that's the good news.
Jenny, I'll come to you now. I mean, Midwich is probably the first company we thought of when this topic came up, because I know you from old, where it was the UK's biggest distributor for God knows how many years, and numerous awards for doing that. But it seems like last 10 years, maybe even 5 years, it's become a global group. Can you tell us about why that's happened, how that's happened, the difficulties, have we found similarities in areas and things?
Well, I think we follow a similar trend to the rest of the industry. So from an integrated standpoint, we're watching people looking to expand their reach and their specialism, and they're doing that through acquisition. And vice versa, those being acquired are gaining that additional reach as well through that investment. And in vendor land, that's more about adding brands, creating an ecosystem. For us, it's a mixture. So we want additional specialism, we want additional categories and expertise, and sometimes it's not possible to do that with homegrown teams, or it takes a lot longer. There's a lot of heritage in these companies that we acquire, that we like to keep, so I think it's quite clear with Midwich, very few of our acquisitions receive a rebrand. We keep those names, we keep that in place, we like what they do. It's getting us into new territories, as you say, it's taking us global gradually, turning us into a global business gradually. But for us as well, we talk about the IT sector. Are we becoming more like them? Are they here and buying up some of our traditionally AV businesses? I like to think we're protecting ourselves a little bit in what Midwich are up to. We're protecting that specialism. We're looking specifically at experts in their fields. We buy companies that have great showrooms or want us to invest in great showrooms and keep that consultative sales approach and specialism in AV, which we like. I think if there's a lot of consolidation with IT buying those specialist companies, they might lose some of that. So hopefully what we're doing protects that and keeps AV alive and for a little bit longer in that convergence.
There was a deal with Praze in Italy last week.
Very recent.
I'm guessing, and you said you like to keep the expertise that's in that region already. I guess that stops you from having to completely start in every region from scratch. I mean, I'm guessing Russia's a very difficult market to break, but I think in smaller ones, maybe like Italy, you've already got that expertise there. I guess that's a more straightforward way for you to do that?
With Praze, that's entrance into a new market for us. We didn't have a presence in Italy previously, but if you look at what we've done in the DACH region, we had a very strong presence with Kern and Stelly, but the additions of Mobile Pro extends our reach in that DACH region, but in a similar category. And then with New Media AV, we've entered the broadcast market. So broadcast, LED, rental, these are all areas that complement traditional AV, and that's what we want to focus on by giving customers one place but with real expertise in each of those businesses, so that they can work with us for continuity and an ease of working across those different technology categories, and then obviously expanding as well. So each company is very different, they bring something new, and we work really closely with them. We hold group summits where we'll have 2 to 3 people from each technology category to sit together around the room and learn about each other's markets, learn about each other's vendors and trends, and work together to look at a global future rather than working in silo. So,
I mean, traditionally there's always been a few markets that have been very hard to crack. India, China, I'd say Russia's probably another one. Elena, do you see companies, German companies, UK companies, try to come into Russia to establish businesses, or does it tend to be Russian companies will look to expand in maybe Western Europe? Is it one way or is it both ways?
Yeah, not so much companies now come to Russia and invest in the business, but the opposite things we can see. Some Russian companies, especially IT companies, come to different countries, for instance, Latin America, India, so Asia, for establish new businesses.
So globally rather than just Europe?
Yeah, because we have now small market in Russia and we need to go globally. And as I can see, some companies, not in Russia, but in the AV industry, they merge the companies to access to the new market. For instance, Panduit recently bought Atlona to have access to AV over IP. And so this was the story, for technology story for merging. Yes.
Nigel, you mentioned earlier on, it's one of my questions for later on, especially in the UK, we've seen a lot of businesses that were created by one person or big kind of personalities,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
now get into a certain age where they're thinking, I probably don't want to work 14 hours a day,
Yeah.
and are kind of selling up. And do you see? I mean, there's still a few left, but do you see that kind of continuing? Is that pushing this drive for M&A?
I mean, it's
somewhat?
interesting. I think there has been an element of that, as you say, the succession plans haven't been particularly great. So companies have been sold out, and there has been that sort of mass merger, creating some fairly Goliath AV companies and AV integrators. I think they need to have a certain amount of mass for the bigger projects, and particularly where it's, as mentioned earlier, sort of bordering so much with IT now. So it needs more rigor in how it's actually delivered. The processes need to be there, the understanding of networks and so on. So these companies need a certain amount of mass. My worry has been that, as someone else earlier said, if the specialisation starts to disappear or get watered down, diluted as these companies grow, that will be a bit of a shame. But I think we are seeing sort of new entrants as well, sometimes in specialist areas,
Sure.
and that's a good thing. You know, I hope that does still continue to be the case.
I mean, one way, this question is probably for the two of you really, one way we've seen with integrators to expand internationally or globally is to join an alliance. There's the GPA, is I think the PSNI, I think, is another one. Is that something that you would maybe look at? Because then you can, if a job comes up in London and then there's another bit to do in Russia or another bit to do in Paris, maybe you can say, oh, we can take that. Is that something you've looked at?
Yeah, I think, we work as consultants, so we're independent, and we're looking for usually knowledgeable deliverers, integrators. If it's international, then we're looking for them to have the ability to have a standardised rollout across. I don't think we would hold a for or against if there was an alliance, as long as that standardisation exists, because our client would be looking for that. You couldn't have something being delivered in one part of the world that was unique. We have enough trouble in just the UK and every meeting room having a different control system in the past, so everyone's trying to move from that. But I think those sort of alliances could work quite well, as long as they really are strict about how things are delivered and the technology used.
Elena, have you been approached by any of those sort of global alliances of integrators to join, or is that something you're for or against? Or
we joined the Global Partner Alliance, I think 2 years ago, and for us it's very interesting to share experience, to see the AV world not from our point of view, but from the different point of view, to see AV world, how to say, more 3D from the different points of view. And so this is interesting because we also have some experience, some learning, some courses, and we can see how business is going in other countries inside. So that's good.
You could probably answer Nigel's question then. Is there a standard that you all agree on if you're in the GPA? Do you all have to agree to?
They are working on standards. Of course, this is a very difficult process because this is huge alliance, and you need to do a lot of work and a lot of resources to have a standards. But they are working on it. That's good, I think.
Sure. And the final question for you all, really. I mean, let's start with Brad. Do you see this sort of M&A trend continuing? Do you think there'll be more this year? There's some big deals that went down last year, Polycom.
I'm sure there will be. I mean, we don't have any numbers that indicate that the M&A activity in this industry is any more or less than M&A activity in any other industry.
Do you think we'll see like a Microsoft buying a Crestron, for example? Do you think that's?
I don't know about that. No comment on that. I wouldn't go there. But one of the topics that came up was specialization. I mean, there are a lot of vertical markets, customer markets, that are just realizing some of the benefits of audiovisual solutions. And that's a place where new companies can come in and specialize in the healthcare market or something like that, where there's really rapid growth. So, like I said, it continues to be an exciting time for the industry. There's nothing but growth still out there. So M&A happens and consolidation happens and new companies come into be, and it's an exciting time to be part of it, and everyone's looking for the next way to make their business succeed. And there will probably be more, and there will be new companies that we've never heard of before.
Jenny, without going into detail, do we think Prase was the end of Midwich's buying this year, or could there possibly be some more?
This is how rumours start. Yeah, they're on the list. I mean, it's quite
clear.
The plan
is to look at other territories where you are.
Absolutely, we're always looking to expand, and whether we do that through organic growth and inorganic growth, it'll depend on what territory and what category it is that we're looking at. But I think there's a lot more to come across the board, really, from integrators, us, and other distributors and vendors. Actually, we're seeing a lot of vendors teaming up, being acquired, and it's quite exciting. It means new product, it means more innovation for the industry. So
excellent. Well, Brad, Jenny, Elena, Nigel, thanks all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please join us for the next one. Goodbye.
Thank you.